Okay, hello and welcome to Chapter 7, Section 3. Today we're looking at the ways in which the government um, monitors our system and referees the system. The whole purpose of the government in the economic system is to ensure relatively fair playing field. You're never going to get 100% perfect, but the government is the only thing powerful enough to control very large companies. So you want to encourage competition, and you want to encourage companies to grow. But there also comes a point when a company gets too big, it becomes very powerful. And so a lot of times the only thing powerful enough to control a company of that size is the government itself. And so prior to the Gilded Age, there were very little controls on government on companies, and honestly, we really didn't have companies that were that big, that needed too much control. But during the Gilded Age, and this is the period after Reconstruction, that's when we use that term gilded. Has to do with this fine, it's almost like a gold-plated, very, it looks valuable, but it actually isn't. And so during that period, there was a growth in overall prosperity, but there are a lot of things wrong under the surface. And so that's where we use that word Gilded Age. But during that period, we had some rapid growth economically during that time, and companies began consolidating. As companies competed with each other, one company would go out of business, another company would purchase the resources of that company, or they would merge with each other, and some companies just did better than others in terms of competing. So, one of the biggest companies was Nelson Rockefeller's Standard Oil. And when you look at a lot of the oil companies today, they are essentially the companies that have come from Standard Oil. And so that was actually broken up in 1911. But notice the law that allowed that to happen was passed way back in 1890. So in some ways, the government, had the weapon, had the tool, but was choosing to not use it until much later. And so the idea was that we don't want price fixing. We want competition to work. Competition brings us better products faster at a lower price. When there's no competition, then prices stay much higher, and we get lower quality products for that. Okay. Now, moving ahead in time, 1914. We see the Clayton Antitrust Act, and Google was a company recently that got in a little bit of trouble over that. And again, them in Texas were kind of messing it up, this is still a law that is applied today. And the idea is you're not allowed to do anything that keeps competition from happening. And that was one of the things, Google, as it's grown, has expanded into many different types of business models now. It is making hardware, it's making software, and it's got a lot of things going on all at once. And so there's nothing wrong with that. The question is, you cannot, particularly with the Antitrust Act, you can't vary your prices as a way to drive out competition. And that's what Google was doing. They got in trouble with that, and they had to pay some fines. And that's what companies do when they get in trouble. You can't throw a company in jail. Usually the biggest thing you'll see is a company broken up, but for the most part, when a company does wrong, usually people have to pay fines, or a company has to pay fine. Now, if people inside of the company do illegal things, then we can actually see officers personally held responsible, and sometimes that happens. If you do something illegal or dangerous, that can be something that can happen. Okay, moving forward in time, we have the Federal Trade Commission Act. And the biggest thing that came from that law in 1914 was the Federal Trade Commission. And when it comes to how do companies do business with other countries and other companies in other countries, the FTC is the agency that does this. So you can see, looking at this website, if you go to ftc.gov, you can see the types of things that they do. Just looking at these tabs at the very top, you can kind of get a sense of some of the things that they do. And if you feel that there's been some sort of fraud, particularly with the internet, the FTC's gotten very, very important when it comes to internet commerce. And so now the FTC is probably one of the first places you go if you feel like you're being taken advantage of, or your personal privacy is not being used properly. And we have to take great care to understand how all of these things matter to you, particularly your credit report. And this is one of those things where your credit report is the sum total of your behavior economically, meaning how well have you done paying bills that you owe. And if you purchase a product and you don't pay for it, or you don't pay on time, your credit rating goes down. Okay, the Robinson Patment Act in 1936. Now this is one of those things where Barnes and Noble company's still around, but it's struggling. Okay, but they were getting in trouble with this same kind of thing. They were giving people that bought in bulk, they were giving different prices. And again, part of this was a way to make it more difficult for competitors to beat them. So this was a way to maybe beat out other book selling companies and things like that. But again, no offering discounts to certain customers and not others. Now, this is the kicker right here. And again, you do see different discounts for different people because coupons apply. If you don't have the coupon, you can't get the coupon unless the company really wants to give it. So that's not the company's fault. They just mail them out for different people. And again, companies can pick and choose who they give coupons to. The part where it becomes illegal is this: for the purpose of limiting competition. So proving that in court is sometimes very difficult, and you often need a paper trail where people are writing in emails and documents where they're saying this is what we're doing, and proving some of these things is very difficult to do. Now, large corporations must give information about themselves, and so when you look at stock market information, price to earnings, earnings per share, those kind of things, you can, if you want to. AT&T is a publicly traded company, and we can actually, and again, this is October 26th. This is an older thing from AT&T. Point being, AT&T has to report information about how it's doing. And so this is good when we think about products, the things that we eat. We have to see the ingredients and the labeling standards, all these kind of things. It's important that be out there so that we can make wise choices, particularly with food. When it comes to allergies, just knowing what's in the food has become very, very important. And then what we're also seeing is if there's any kind of outbreak, such as salmonella or something like that, it's important to know where that food came from. So a lot of times there's a lot number that you can identify on the label to see has this food been recalled. Okay, I heard something that fish is bad. Some people are getting sick with fish. Is the fish I have bad? Well, we can go to some government websites and literally find that out and see if this stuff's any good or not. And then I think the important thing to understand is that a competitive secret, when a company comes up with something that is of value, an idea, there is a patent. Okay, a patent on that idea. You literally get a government approval for ownership of that idea, and that you'll have that for a certain amount of time. Now, you can choose to sell that as patent, but every company has secrets, and we don't necessarily have to give up those secrets because that's part of the competitive nature of business. Okay, so we don't have to give up those secrets, but certain things that the public needs to know needs to be out there. And that is the end of Chapter 7. Please study chapters 1 through 7 to prepare yourself for the midterm exam.